Homeowners and businesses are counting the cost after extensive flooding in parts of the west today. Exposed coastal regions were worst affected. Flood warnings remain in place in many areas tonight.
High tides and storm force winds combining with devastating effect. By 6 o'clock this morning, all the signs pointed to coastal flooding in exposed areas. Waves lashing the promenade in Salthill in a manner locals haven't seen for years. The result for many, clean-ups and closures.
Nobody can believe it, that this happened, because we certainly didn't see it and we didn't know it was on the cards. We knew there was storm warnings, we knew there was kind of high tides, but we thought it was orange storm, and we were warned about a red storm the previous week, and we were kind of ready for that. Not that you can do anything, because this is a real natural disaster, but we certainly didn't see this coming.
In Galway city centre, businesses along Flood Street had prepared, but surging waters couldn't be contained.
Put it bluntly, every penny we made this Christmas, and it was a good Christmas, is going to have to try and repair all this. We'll have to get a whole new floor put down, a whole new electrics are going to have to be put in place, new carpets, probably closed for a couple of days.
I don't know where to start. All I know is that my electrics are gone out here straight away. I'm seeing teacups strewn on the ground. It's looking pretty bad. And given that everything that we have here is antique and old anyway, this is pretty bad for us.
The Leisureland complex in Salthill was closed after flooding to the gym and swimming pool this morning. And along the Connemara coast at Spiddal, council staff worked through the day to clear debris washed ashore. In Mayo, a bridge at Rossmoney near Westport was washed away. Several acres of land in the area remained underwater all day, while flooding also caused disruption for motorists around Belmullet. As efforts continue to deal with the damage caused by today's flooding, Met Éireann has warned further disruption could be on the cards.
Over the next few days, in fact, we're going to see some wintry precipitation in parts through tonight and possibly first thing tomorrow. And after that, yet a return to more wet and windy weather, even stormy conditions for Sunday evening leading into Monday. And along with high seas and high tides, there is the continued risk of coastal flooding.
Flood alerts remain in place tonight in several local authority areas. Homeowners and businesses are being advised to take precautions as best they can. Pat McGrath, RTE News, Galway.
Lahinch Promenade in County Clare was extensively damaged by last night's storm. Parts of the seawall and pathways were completely broken, while the lower end of the prom was covered in around 3 feet of water. The damage caused is estimated to run to several million euro.
This is what is left of the promenade at Lahinch in County Clare. Battered by the might of storm force gales and huge waves, the seawall and pathways were completely broken up and destroyed. You'd have been forgiven for thinking that it had been hit by a tsunami or some other form of earthquake, such was the devastation. Barriers were broken and street lighting masts bent with the force of the elements. At the lower end of the prom, surfing huts and vans were completely submerged. The local playground also covered in water. It hadn't been seen in living memory. People were describing it as like a war zone.
It's pretty horrific. It's like Armageddon down here, as you can see behind me. The force of the waves. You had 3 things last night. You had the wind, you had a very high tide, and you had a huge boiling sea behind it. And the waves weren't breaking in the sea at all. They were breaking actually on the land and smashing into all the buildings that you see here.
The area has now been closed indefinitely, and the major job now is the clean-up and repair work. Lahinch is heavily dependent on tourism, and its economy will also take a battering unless that repair work can be completed quickly.
This represents an absolute disaster for the community here. All the employment in the surrounding area, quite a lot of it relies on these facilities being in place. So for Clare County Council, the challenge is in the first instance to find the funding to repair the damage and to refurbish the promenade, and I suppose in the second instance to do it as quickly as possible so that we're ready for the oncoming season.
Kathy Halloran, RTE News, Lahinch, County Clare.
On the east coast, exceptionally high tides caused flooding in some coastal areas. In Blackrock in County Louth, there was extensive flooding along the seafront this afternoon. Portmarnock, Malahide and other parts of North County Dublin were also flooded, and roads were closed for a time in Sandymount and in Dublin city centre. The East Link toll bridge was also closed for a time. In other news, 2 men have been